Recording in progress.
And it was a really fun listen. Yeah.
All right, welcome to our city council meeting for March 4th, 2024. Couple notes before we get started. We have a couple council members missing today, but we do still have a number of staff and members of the public joining virtually. So I do continue to go back and forth between my Zoom screen and all of you here in public. So give me a little grace as I do that. We do take breaks every 90 to 120 minutes between items. This is a pretty short agenda, so it's unlikely we will need to, but just in case. With that, we begin every meeting with an open comment period, and this is an opportunity for anyone from the public to speak on items that we will not be taking public testimony during the public hearing later in the agenda. Each person has up to 2 minutes for a total of 20 minutes, and I will be keeping track of time through a variety of methods. This stoplight right here and the clock on the wall, and just make sure that you use your time well and make sure that others have an opportunity to speak. I do request that your comments be directed at me as the presiding officer, and that you are respectful towards those members on the council, although we of course do welcome feedback. If there is any material you'd like to share, you are welcome to give it to our city clerk, and she will make sure that we receive those items. Participants are encouraged to limit comments generally to topics that the city has the ability to affect policy on, and we don't respond to your comments during a meeting, but if there is an item you'd like follow-up on, you're welcome to share your information with the city clerk, and we will get back to you as needed. So I will begin with the list in front of me here and invite you up. You should come up to the stand, introduce yourself, and you have 2 minutes. And I have Aaron Vasquez as our first speaker.
I am Erin Zach. I'm here speaking on behalf of the Friends of Northern Heights Neighborhood Park. In summer 2023, I became aware of a proposal by the Rochester Active Sports Club to put mountain bike trails in Northern Heights Park. With concerns spreading to other neighbors about the proposal, our neighborhood association contacted city officials. The park department has designated Northern Heights Park as a neighborhood park for neighbors living within a 10 to 15-minute walk. Over 400 residents living within this distance signed a petition against the development of mountain bike trails within this park. Many of us bought our houses largely because of the park, which we told was and would remain a neighborhood park. Local realtors have told us that natural areas typically increase home values for adjacent neighbors and mountain bike trails typically don't. You may be familiar with other neighborhood parks such as Summit Point and Southern Point. Imagine the city decides to change the intended purpose of this park. Then imagine enjoying one of these parks jogging or walking, maybe with a kid or dog, when suddenly mountain bikers come blazing around the bend, hollering for you to move over. Some of us have not had good experiences walking the multi-use RASC managed trails in Game Haven while competing with fast-moving bikes. Mountain bike trails are simply not good multi-use trails and do not belong in neighborhood parks, which is why the system plan designates them in community parks. If our neighborhood park adds mountain bike trails, we have concerns about loss of property value as well as damage to the steep slopes and wetlands found within the park. The city and county have documented the prevalence of Decorah Edge wetlands in Northern Heights Park and prohibited development to protect soil and groundwater. This protection is based on the Decorah Edge and Wetland Ordinance administered under the direction of the County Planning Department and City Community Development, not the Park Department. Jeff Broberg, a well-respected Southeast Minnesota natural resource consultant, helped write this Decorah Edge ordinance and recently told us, this area should remain undisturbed. Any trails through the wetlands will destroy the soil and ecological balance of these seeps and springs, and cuts into the slope could remove soils and areas that trigger slope failures and erosion. We encourage the City Council to not let this project move forward, destroying a neighborhood park against the wishes of neighbors and risking future Decorah Edge and wetland problems. Thank you.
Perfect timing. Thank you, Ms. Vasquez. All right, Adam Busby, and sorry about my microphone. I got a new one. Please introduce yourself and you have 2 minutes.
Good evening, City Council, Council President, Mayor. Adam Busby, representing ATU Local 10005. Today, I'm speaking about the ZIPS program who just voted for the ATU to represent them. They voted 14 yeses, 3 noes, and 3 did not vote out of the 20 drivers. So that's how important it was for them to have representation. We're going to go to work immediately negotiating a contract for them for sick time, vacation time, and health care, all of which these folks are working without and haven't had since the current contractor has had it. Speaking about health care, that is one thing that the current contractor promises, and it's actually in his manual, his handbook that he gives out, that he provides health care, but he does not. We've had members that have tried and reached out, and he just will not respond via email, text message, or phone calls for health care. It's unacceptable. Also, it's going to be a tough negotiation. Just to let y'all know what we're up against, one of the members lost a baby and took off 2 weeks unpaid because he didn't have any paid time off. And the current owner moved to terminate this driver. This is a longtime driver. Thanks to TransDev local managers stepping in and speaking up and fighting on his behalf, Sun Transit owner did not terminate this employee. This is unacceptable for people that do the job every day representing the city of Rochester, taking care of the most vulnerable clients, and to be treated as such as they are. Something needs to be done. This is another good example, and I see I'm close to time. This is another good example why the city needs to bring RPT, all of its components, in-house to keep this kind of stuff from happening in future. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Mr. Busby. Would anyone else like to speak? All right, we will close open comment and officially call the meeting to order. Clerk Geisler, please call the roll.
Councilmember Keen.
Here.
Councilmember Bransford is absent. Councilmember Wall.
Here.
Councilmember Kirkpatrick.
Here.
Councilmember Palmer is absent. Councilmember Dennis.
Here.
Council President Carlson.
Here.
Mayor Norton.
Present. All right, thank you, everyone. We are missing our city administrator today, but we do have Deputy Administrator Parrish here to provide a report. Go ahead when you're ready.
Yeah, Mayor, President, members of the council, really great to see you there this evening. Just a couple of updates, a lot of great things. Obviously, with this great weather this last weekend, spring has certainly sprung. Want to just also remind people as they get enthusiastic about re-engaging with outdoor activity. There is a very high fire risk right now, and so certainly a higher risk of brush and grass fires. So really be cognizant of how you're doing your recreational fires. There's lots of great information out on our website in terms of what you can do there. But just realize that we are kind of in an extended dry period, and coming out of the winter, there's a lot of potential risks there. So just encourage people to be real mindful about how they're doing recreational fires, and just also thanks to our fire department for all the work they're doing in that space. We do have 2 seats that are open on our ethical practices board. Those terms are soon to be expiring, and if anyone's interested in that, you can get more information on our boards and commissions website. And those folks that are interested are encouraged to apply by March 29th. We also have a really great event that our public music team is working on. And so just another way to kind of get into the Chateau Theater and see what it's all about. But later this month on March 16th from 7:30 to 9:30, you'll be able to see a great group, Six Appeal at the historic Chateau Theater. So check that out. And then finally, this is a near and dear to council President, or I'm sorry, Council Member Kirkpatrick. It's the gardening season, and our library team does an excellent job with our seed library. So you can come and grab those in the fall or whenever the right time is for all that. You can certainly bring seeds in as well for the future. Go to the website and learn about it. I don't know a bunch about harvesting seeds, but it's a great thing to grow your own food and see how you're part of that cycle. There's more information on the library's website. And then our public works team and our neighbors do an excellent job, as well as many other city departments, on the A Litter Bit Better campaign. And so this is something that's been longstanding. If you or a member of your group wants to sign up and participate, you can go to the Our Neighbors website. It's a great team building activity, and it makes a really positive impact in terms of the cleanliness and appearance of our community coming out of the winter. And then lastly, for those that are into golf, you had some really great golf conversations in the last year or so. But we are back up and running. And Soldiers Field Memorial Golf Course is open. Great turnout last weekend. Driving range in Northern Hills is open. And also with the extended season, a really great time to get your season passes and get those dialed in because it looks to be a nice and long golf season here. So with that, I'll turn it over back to the Council President and over to the Mayor.
Thanks so much, Mr. Parrish. And Mayor Norton, your report?
Yes, a couple of things today. Thank you. First, in your inboxes, City Council, probably just about 6 o'clock, maybe a minute or two after, the 2023 annual report from the Rochester Police Department was released. It will be posted publicly tomorrow. But it showcases the work of the wonderful police department that we have. And I was just astounded to read that there were 62,000 incidents responded to in the last year. So it's, our police department's very busy, but there's other details in there. And the one thing I think I would ask of you, because this has come up a couple times, if there's something that you would like to see that's not in there, if you would let me know, we can look to provide more information in the coming year. So just wanted to clarify that. Women in Construction Week is March 3rd through 9th. It celebrates and promotes the role of women in construction. I had an opportunity today to go to their luncheon and speak about the progress we're making here in town, the number of women in construction we have, as you heard recently at a city council meeting, and read a proclamation to them. The theme this year is Keys to the Future, and it celebrates the strength and knowledge of women and the vital role they play. So it was really a great event. They're a great group. And if when you walk into City Hall, as you walk through those doors to your right, they put together a display for us about women in construction. So as you walk through the City Hall doors into the rotunda, take a peek to your right. It's also International Women's Day this Friday, March 8th. It's a global day celebrating social, economic, cultural, and political achievements of women. And as a woman mayor, with lots of women leaders in this city, all across the governmental entities and in private business as well, I thought it might be worth mentioning that. So thank you to all the women leaders that we have, but also the women that work throughout our community and do such a great job. So I want to mention that. I did have an opportunity. I left Monday, the last Monday at our city council meeting, at the very end of the meeting, and went to Washington, D.C. for the announcement. 14 mayors were invited to this announcement on the White House Challenge to End Hunger and Build Healthy Communities. And as you know, I've been doing Move with the Mayor and working to end childhood hunger. And this is an initiative that will be going on for the next 2 years. And it links beautifully with the work that we're already doing here. So we'll be working with our nonprofit partners and the county in working on 4 of the 5 pillars that the CDC and the folks in Washington, D.C. have identified as ways to solve some of these problems over the next 2 years. And it's certainly not something we will be able to handle alone as a city, but I think we have so many wonderful nonprofits and partners, and Olmsted County Public Health does just a fabulous job. And some of you are going to be involved in helping me on this. Councilwoman Kirkpatrick, for one, this is an area she cares deeply about, particularly the hunger and food issues. So really looking forward to the work ahead in the next 2 years. There are 114 mayors and 141 organizations that signed on to work on this. So very cool. I mentioned this already, the annual report. Rochester Vision 2050 in my State of the City, I talked about wanting to do a community-wide visioning and give our community members a chance to have a say in the future of Rochester. So this week, the consultant is coming to town. He's going to be meeting with some of the city council members. Hopefully you all have a chance to spend an hour or so with him. I know some of our council members are gone. I don't know if they'll be back before the end of the week, but if they come back before Friday, let's, if you see them, have them get a hold of us because we can fit it in later in the week as well. And we will be putting together a steering committee and a group of people called Visioning in Action, and they will be the folks that will help us go to your doors or your organizations and ask what you want in Rochester. And this isn't for the short term, it's visioning out, looking at about 2050. But we often hear in this community, oh, I raised my children here, and then they all left, right? Well, for this next generation of kids, we want them to stay here. We want them to find this a community that they can spend their life in, happily doing the things they want with great careers. And so we need to hear what that'll take. So we're going to be asking you for the next year. We hope to have the thousands of suggestions that we'll get. We hope to have those gone through, and perhaps by January next year's State of the City, we'll have some possible solutions. And that's all I have. Thank you for the time.
All right, thank you, Mayor. We'll move on to approving the order of the agenda. There has been one minor addition of an attachment to item F10. This is an RFQ and is attached for, or the council received it earlier today, and there is a printed copy available as well if anyone in the audience would like to see it. We will then be attaching it to the minutes as part of our permanent record after the meeting. And then just a note before we move on to a motion, all three of our public hearings tonight have had a request to continue to March 18th. So if you're here to speak on any of those items, we will invite you to do so. But just note that any further public comment and discussion will likely be on March 18th. So just giving you all a heads up if you are here for those items in particular. Anything else I missed? Otherwise, would invite a motion to approve with that addition.
I'd move to approve the order of the agenda with that stated update.
Second.
All right, any discussion?
No, nothing yet.
All right, any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carries. All right, moving on to the consent agenda. Councilmember Dennis is pulling item F3. This will be discussed under reports and recommendations. Is there anything else? Okay, I'll invite a motion to approve items in block F1 through 2, F4 through 13.
So moved.
Second.
All right, Councilmember Keen, any discussion?
Yeah, the only thing I'll add is that we do, I think the consent agenda is a really good idea to keep our meetings efficient, but there's so much of the daily city business that goes on in there that we don't go over up here because we get focused so much more on city development and other kind of decision making. But I really do, we don't go through this quickly because it's not important. We do it because it's efficient for meeting times. But I really do ask, if you really want to know what's going on in the city, take a look at some of those and what's going on, like in our how we're heating our buildings and what we're doing for our power generation plans. There's a lot of work going on in there that we cover quickly in this meeting.
I actually was going to say something very similar, but I just wanted to say that it's actually really exciting to see what's in this particular consent agenda because it is several of our city priorities really moving forward around our downtown building, energy transition, our Parks and Rec, or the regional sports and rec facility, and our Parks and Rec maintenance facility, which was a bonding priority. It's really exciting to see staff carrying our priorities forward and making those projects take shape and become real things. So thank you so much. All right, let's go ahead and vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Okay, like I said, we have a couple sort of strange changes, not strange, couple changes to public hearings. So I usually run through the order of the public hearings. So I'll take a second to do that, but just know that we will be doing these a little differently today. So we invite staff to give an introduction to the item. The applicant or representative of the applicant has up to 10 minutes to provide a presentation. We open the public hearing, allow for public comment. You have up to 5 minutes for your comments, of course, keeping them brief and concise. And then we close the public hearing. The applicant has a chance for a rebuttal for up to 5 minutes. We then have questions from my colleagues on council or the mayor for the applicant or staff before we move into a motion discussion and vote. So with that, we will open the public hearings and we have item G1, which is the
Point of order before, just for clarification, since we're going to be continuing our public hearings, we're not going to close them. We don't have a chance for questions. Can we ask questions to staff after they do their presentation?
I'm comfortable with that if people are comfortable with that change.
Yeah.
Councilmember, can we just get a nod of agreement if we can make that tweak for tonight since it is, are you okay with that, Mr. Dombrowski?
Mhm.
Mr. McGee?
Yep.
Okay,
Thank you.
yep, so
Thank you.
we'll have the staff present and then have a period of questions before the applicant?
I guess we could do it that way. I was thinking we just have the staff present, we'd have any public comments, and then ask questions, and then then we'd suspend the public hearing until the
I'd
18th.
rather have it before public hearing is
Okay.
open.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, all right, so just a quick change. The staff will present, council will ask any clarifying questions, knowing we'll have further discussion and questions at our next meeting. And then we'll invite the applicant and have public hearing opened up. I'll walk you through it. Okay, so the first item is G1, the reconstruction of 7th Avenue Northwest from 7th Street Northwest to 10th Street Northwest, project number J7837. And staff have requested this to continue, and I will have Mr. Dombrowski explain why and introduce the item.
Good evening, Mayor, President, members of the council. Thank you for the slight tweak to this one. As you know, we've been talking about a number of projects over the last few months as we've worked through the special assessment process when we do the feasibility report, then you do the project hearing, and then the assessment hearing. Tonight, we're here to talk about 7th Avenue Northwest between 7th Street and 10th Street, which was presented a month ago. We scheduled the project hearing for tonight. However, the state statute requires that confirmation to move forward with the project requires a 4/5 vote of the council, which would be 6 members or more in this instance. So in consultation with our city attorney, we're recommending that the hearing be continued. Obviously, as you noted, allowing people to make comment tonight if they did arrive. Otherwise, I did talk to a couple residents along the corridor in the rotunda before the meeting. They're going to come back in 2 weeks. They elected to come back, but they could speak either evening. But again, as we talked a month ago, this is a full reconstruction project, a number of funding sources of which $136,261 is proposed for special assessments, which then gets split up amongst the neighboring parcels along the corridor. So I am here for questions before you open the hearing.
Thank you. Are there questions of Mr. Dombrowski? Councilmember King, did you have a question?
Yeah, I'm just gonna try to, the process we use allows us to assess from 20 to 25% of the cost of the project.
The policy reads, we take 25% of only the eligible roadway items.
Yep.
So the pavement, the rock, curb and gutter, driveways, any subgrade excavation necessary to build the road, does not include any of the utilities, any pedestrian facilities, any streetscaping on some of those larger corridors where we have streetscaping and lighting, et cetera. So it's really, we look at the eligible items for the roadway, 25% is assessed to the properties, and 75% is paid by the city.
Right, and just to clarify, also the 88 corner ramps, those are all separately funded. They're not part of the assessments either.
Correct.
So if I understand state law, it allows us to go to 20% of special considerations, but our process, our local process says 25%. What would be the conditions that would say you could take it down to 20%? Have you looked at any of these things? I'm not asking for it in this project. I just want to understand the.
We're actually not, the state law, that's referring to the overall project, the total of the entirety of the project. So when you look at this project, only around just over 10% is being funded with special assessments.
Okay,
There's some nuances with if a city's bonding for a project, you need to ensure that you're collecting at least 20% of the project cost via special assessment. Some cities go up to 25, but that's looking
okay,
at
that's a
total
different.
project amount.
All right, that's very helpful. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, so we will open the public hearing. Is anyone here to speak on this item? And I did not see a list for the public hearings. No one signed up? All right, then I'd ask for a motion to continue to March 18th,
I'll move to continue to March 18th.
Second.
right?
No, nothing to add.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. All right, motion carries. Clerk Geisler, you were looking at me. Did I make a mistake? Okay. All right, so we will move on to items G2, and we are actually going to do G2 and G3 together here. So we have Mr. McGeough here, and the items are, oh, I just lost my place. Around zoning map amendment number CD 2023-011ZC by Pike Design and Construction. And so Mr. McGill will introduce items G2 and G3. The applicant can speak. Again, they'll request a continuation. Again, we will still open the public hearing. If anyone has come to speak on these items, you are welcome to do so, but you will also have a chance to do so, assuming the motion to continue passes to March 18th. So, Mr. McGill, take us away.
Thank you, President Carlson, Mayor Norton, members of the council, good evening. Desmond McGill, Community Development. This is a major, a zoning map amendment and a major land subdivision for a project known as Oak Ridge Villas. The subject site is a 1.25 acre site that's located at the northeast corner of 20th Street Southwest and 3rd Avenue Southwest. The applicant is proposing a change of zoning from R1, which is mixed single family residential, to R2, low density, small lot residential, for the development of 6 lots that would front towards 20th Avenue, served by a single driveway access. The preliminary grading plan shows that the north portion of the lot will generally remain in its current condition. The home and garage on the site were recently demolished due to deterioration of the structure and in anticipation of development of the site. R2 low density residential is small lot zoning is an appropriate zone district within the underlying low density residential land use classification of the city's comprehensive plan. The drainage of the site was one of the primary concerns that came up at the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting last month. And the applicant has recently received comments from the first review from Public Works on their grading and drainage plan or grading permit. The applicant has requested that continuance of the subject application to the March 18th meeting to allow time to address those comments and to be able to speak to neighborhood concerns with specificity. That concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions of the council.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. McGill. Any questions? Councilmember Keen?
Yeah, I just want to understand that what's going to come, what is going to come back in terms of the study, the stormwater? Is it just like we're covered, or is it a presentation that talks about what the standard is for drainage?
Well, the standard and perhaps Public Works could speak better to this, but it requires that you cannot increase the rate of flow that comes off of a site with the improvement condition afterwards, as it currently, in comparison to how it currently is. So, Tyler, would you have anything to add?
Yeah, Desmond said that very well. Anytime we're reviewing a project, the pre-existing condition, the existing condition, essentially, whatever those volumes are of stormwater runoff, the future project scenario cannot exceed that existing volume. So it needs to meet or be less than what it is today.
So, I mean, I can understand those words, but I don't understand what we're doing. Like when you're going to go into a place and put 6 homes and 6 driveways and everything else, we're going to have more water coming off that property unless we do something. Are we going to do something like a retaining pond? I'm just looking for some sort of like the standard. You said the standard is the rate, but how do you control the rate?
There's a variety of best management practices that their consultant will have to build into the design. It could be underground storage. If, when we run into sites that there's not a lot of space, they start to think about underground storage and filtration or infiltration, depending on the soils. On a larger site, typically it would be some sort of retention facility that's infiltrating, or maybe it can't infiltrate, and so it's all retained on site. They'll have to be creative like any other project and evaluating that, what is necessary with the stormwater design.
I mean, anytime we're doing infill construction like this or development, we're going to run into these sort of concerns that there's always the worry about change going on, but I'm trying to come up with the language to talk to neighbors about in terms of rate, or how you change that 1.5 acres and not have a negative effect with the topography around there in the hills. I'm looking for some language, and rate helps a little bit, but I guess it's not clear to me yet. Like if you'd say the current unit water coming off that on a 4-hour, 4-inch rain is going to be 20 units. And without any stormwater work, it's going to be up to 60 units. And the stormwater work is going to keep those 40 units back by doing this. I'm looking for that help 2 weeks from now. So if there's some way to do that, it would be very helpful.
We can do that.
Anything else for staff? All right, otherwise I'd invite the applicant up to speak or a representative of the applicant. Please come on up.
Thank you. My name is Lawrence Bates. I live at 225 19th Street Southwest.
Actually, this is the applicant who is proposing the project.
Ah,
So we will invite you back up in just a minute, okay?
that is kind. Thank you.
Yes. All right, is the applicant here wanting to speak? Let me see if anybody's joining virtually. Okay, I don't see anybody. So again, we'll just assume that the applicant has already made the request to continue to March 18th for both G2 and G3. With that, we'll open the public hearing. If you would like to speak, you are welcome to come back up. Thank you for your patience.
Again, my name is Lawrence Bates. I live at 225 19th Street Southwest. And I have two concerns. The first is that doing the conversion first and then afterwards defining what could be done there, to my mind, opens up the possibility that it could be changed from R1 to R2, and then at another stage, somebody decides, no, we're not going to do the 6 single-family small lots. We're going to do something else that's permissible on an R2. So I think that G2 and G3 should be voted on together, my opinion. The second is that if you will notice the 2 properties to the west of the one that we're considering, if somebody purchased both of those, precisely the same argument could be made from extending the zoning requirements there also from an R1 to an R2. And in fact, there are multiple properties like this over the whole of this area. And so I'm concerned that this is not just dealing with a rather special property, which I accept, but it could also be used as a mechanism for changing the whole character of the whole area, buying up rather large plots and then going through the same process and saying, well, we did it once before, we'd like to do it again. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else here to speak on these items, G2 and G3 tonight? All right, so I will invite a motion to continue the public hearing to March 18th.
So moved.
Second.
All right, any discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. All right, motion carries. Well, thank you for being here tonight, and we'll see you again in a couple weeks. So that is all for our public hearings tonight. We'll move on to reports and recommendations, which we did not have a formal agenda item, but we did have item F3 from the consent agenda pulled. So that is the Planning to Succeed Rochester 2040 Comprehensive Plan, 5-year update, request for proposals. Councilmember Dennis, you pulled this item. And who on staff is here to speak to this? Irene, Ms. Woodward? Okay. All right, so go ahead, Ms. Dennis.
All right, thank you. So I just also want to comment on how short this meeting is.
Oh, not
And
relevant to
so,
the agenda.
We do have time to, well, it is very relevant.
It's not. Please continue on to the item that you have pulled.
To finish my thought,
Nope.
I feel some things are meriting discussion. So due to.
Point
the
of order,
shortness,
point of order.
Yes.
Point of order,
You
the
have
agenda,
floor.
the agenda item is F3. That's what we should be discussing afterwards. We can go to other business.
We are
Do I
on
need a
agenda
ruling on-
item F3. Please continue on F3.
Okay, so I would just like more discussion on the topic, hence pulling it because of the short agenda of tonight. I pulled this item to have more discussion on why we need proposals for consultants, for contractor services, why we don't use more in-house We had discussion of that a little bit during a study session, but I would like some more of that. I know some of the questions I brought up were answered real quick right before the meeting, so I haven't got a chance to go through and look at some of the reports, but it seems like this report is just shining. It's very wonderful, and I know, if anyone who knows me personally knows I'm a very positive person, and I'm always spinning things in the positive. However, we can't do that as council members. So when I'm in this role, I put on my critical hat and I say, well, yes, we need to think in the positive, but we also need to be good stewards of our taxpayer dollars, and we need to be critical in the making sure that things are doing what needs to be done. So I want to just make sure some of this very rose-colored glasses on, the best of the best of the best is not selling something that's not 100% accurate in reality. And so I was just, when looking over this report, and as I looked at other things in the packet as well, as many times, it's very focused on the positive. And I think we need to make sure that reality is also reflected. So I would just like a little more background on this proposal and why it is being done. We're looking at not just this, but other things, millions of dollars of taxpayer funds being used in, and just making sure that this is done and illustrates all the challenges as well that we are facing.
So maybe reiterating from last meeting why a consultant is appropriate for this particular role on the comprehensive plan update.
Sure. Good evening, council. Thanks for the question. As we talked on during the study session last week, the comprehensive plan is overdue for an update. And so we are seeking the services of a consultant to help us complete that work, both in a timely fashion as well as at the high quality that we expect. And there are some things that we would like to update about the comprehensive plan that our staff just doesn't have the capacity to do in the short term, particularly for a project that is overdue. The section that I think Councilmember Dennis is referring to in the RFP is intended to give the consultant a quick background knowledge of what the city of Rochester is, and it is intended to be positive. We have quite a few awards that the city has received that we are fairly proud of. And so we cite those in the RFP to give the consultant a flavor of what we expect for the city of Rochester. So that is included in there. And just to clarify one point, the cost of this isn't, I think we put in there not to exceed 50,000. So it's not millions of dollars. It's funds that we have set aside for consulting services each year. So I'm happy to answer any other questions.
Just to clarify, sorry, I didn't articulate well enough. I'm talking about if you look at all of the consent agenda items that we quickly passed as a block, there are millions of dollars are being spent of taxpayer funds that we just quickly, without discussion today, passed. So I was just bringing that up as a reference, but not for this particular project. So I apologize if I misspoke. Some of the things like transportation and stuff, we had wonderful Mr. Busby, and we
Not
talked.
germane, move on. Other items on the consent agenda that we've already passed are not germane. to
This
F3. Go
report
ahead.
talks about transportation, President
So-
Carlson. Have you read the
But
report?
we've already
It talks about
adopted.
transportation.
All right, can you move
This
on
is
or
not
do I
about
need a
Mr.
motion to
Busby's-
approve?
This is about how it's perceiving our transportation. It's not, I don't believe, accurate.
Okay, then stay exactly on that topic if it's relevant
I
to
appreciate
F3.
not being scolded. Thank you. I am sticking on the topic to say that this report does not accurately reflect the
Right.
challenges that we are facing as a city. And I don't feel that we should be voting on things that are not reality, that they're.
Point
Council
of order.
President, it sounds like you can move on to a
Okay,
motion
is
and a
there a
vote.
motion?
I'd like to move approval of the authorizing solicitation of responses to the request for proposal for contracted services.
Second.
All right, Councilmember Keen, you have the floor.
Yeah, I share some of Councilmember Dennis's concerns with, always going out to hire experts. At the same time, this is a big thing that we're doing, and we're trying to get some outside expertise to help us. But I think compared to when you look at the amount of consulting we had for something like the Unified Development Code or something like doing this original plan. I mean, those things, we do need that kind of expertise, but those are those big bills. This one is much more of like getting somebody in who's gone through these updates before and has some experience with it, and I'm going to support it tonight.
Councilmember Kirkpatrick, you had a question?
Thank you. Like Mr. Keen, I appreciate all the work that staff is doing, and at the rate we are going to be growing with Bold Forward Unbound, I understand that we need to dig in and make sure that our growth is appropriate and suits our needs and our desires for the community. However, Mr. Yetzer, I heard you make a comment of that's why it's cited, things are cited in the report. When you say cited, do you mean cited as in scientifically? You give a reference for something we can look at after we read a statement that's stated factually? Because I'm just wondering, that could be a concern as we move forward and we use these consultants. Perhaps reports that come to us might have actual citations or footnotes so that we can, or the public can click on that resource to see, oh yeah, we were stated in US news that we have a #1 hospital, or yeah, Rochester's public transportation system is top notch because it was rated by thus and such. Has any consideration been given to doing something like that?
Sure, I think it's a fair comment. The organizations that we listed in the report were not hyperlinked, but those awards are listed on the city's website, and we can definitely point anyone who's seeking that information to that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. What I'm asking is that perhaps the ease of finding that would be contained within the document, so folks that are engaging with us can open the document as we do, and then they can click on it. Hyperlinking, yeah, it's a more modern way and probably a better way to do it because most folks are accessing our agendas on the internet. So I appreciate your diligence in perhaps digging just a little bit deeper and providing that to us and to the public. Thank you very much.
Councilmember Wall?
Thank you. I presume that the request for proposal is just an introduction to a possible consultant, and that current staff will be a part of the process whereby the consultant will get firsthand information from our local experts.
Absolutely. Yep.
Thank you.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay.
Nay.
All right, motion carries 4-1 with Councilmember Dennis voting nay. Okay, we don't have any CIA as council initiated actions. We don't have any ordinance first readings. We do have one ordinance second reading. Mr. Spindler Craig, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam President. Item K1, an ordinance annexing to the city of Rochester approximately 5.13 acres located at southwest corner of 65th Street Northwest and 37th Avenue Northwest.
Move approval.
Second.
Councilmember Keen, any discussion?
No, just to make sure everyone realizes this isn't something new. This is something that we did in 2023, and it had a minor correction after going through the state process. This is coming into the city as R3, low density residential, or I think it's medium density residential.
Right, any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay.
Nay.
All right, motion carries 4-1. With that, we will move on to other business. Does anyone have any other business? Councilmember Dennis?
Thank you. One of the main purposes of other business is to address open comment concerns. So I have a few items of that on my own of other business, but before addressing those, I want to get some questions answered for the residents who came here. So I appreciate everyone who was able to attend, and extremely short, not the 9-hour meetings that we've had before. But this is the first concern was with the Northern Heights Park. I am a little bit, I mean, I've been to Northern Heights Park, but a little bit unfamiliar with the wetland situation. And so hearing the mountain bike trails and the concerns that were brought up by the first resident who came to speak, was hoping that staff could address some of her concerns.
Is there someone from staff who would like to speak on this Parks Board issue? Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm President, members of council, mayor. Not specifically in terms of that, but I mean, I think from a process perspective, the park board is actively considering this, and are they meeting tomorrow night?
Tomorrow night, they're receiving a presentation with some updates on.
Yeah, receiving the
Recent
presentation, and I
studies.
believe it's at the Civic Center, so the agenda for that meeting is on our website, and so that's really the next step in the process as the park board formulates its recommendation on what they want to do in that space.
Okay, well, hopefully, people can reach out directly to the staff, and you can also CC all the council members and the mayor in at the same time. So anyone who is listening to get the most, out of your comments is a good way to keep us all on the same page. Then the second, speaker, who spoke was, Mr. Busby, who has, I believe, contacted other council members. And this has been a concern that we have heard before. I am still not clear why we, as a city, haven't wanted to take ZIPS and the staff and incorporate the wonderful employees and everything under city employment versus a situation that they're in. Oh, I think it's this one. These are very heart wrenching situations that I'm hearing, and we've heard, I'm not going to reiterate all the past ones that have been brought to council, but I just want to see, is there a update on the discussion on whether or not that is a possibility for the people who serve, like Mr. Budsby had said, the most vulnerable of our population?
Yeah, I mean, just to offer very brief comments on this. Of course, this is really a labor management issue between a contractor, that we obviously, it's a subcontractor of someone we have a contract with. So just to kind of be clear about that, I mean, generally it's not advised that we engage in specific, labor management interactions, when we're not party to, that particular relationship. With that being said, I'd also note that it sounds like TransDev has done some intervention there. I think Wendy Turi, gave you a good update, just generally on what the team's doing. It's on their radar. They understand some of the contemporary issues happening there as it pertains to the city's provision of service. And then lastly, we have an existing agreement with TransDev to provide this service. So if you wanted to have that conversation, as Councilmember Dennis requested, that would be among the types of alternatives you'd want to consider when or if you want to do that. When you're, considering the contracting process for that, but it's not timely at the moment, given the fact that we have an existing agreement with TransDev that won't expire for a couple of years.
Okay.
Councilmember Keen, did you have a comment on
I
that?
just want to make a comment on this before we pass by it. It's, I think it goes without saying, but I want to have it said anyways. Just because somebody asked for that, I wouldn't want anyone to listen to our meetings and say that's what the council wants to do. If staff got into the point, or that we got to the point of saying like, this is something we need to change, then that would be a council decision, not individual council members directing the staff.
Okay, your next item, Councilmember Dennis?
That might be something to look into for council to get together and change that. So I would be open to do so if anyone is willing to reach out to me to sponsor a CIA. So just a couple, there's a lot of things I wanted to, of course, give acknowledgement to the suffering in the world. We hear, of course, with Gaza and Ukraine and Israel and now Haiti. And so I definitely don't want a council meeting to go by that we're not aware and really making a comment about the suffering and want to give our soul deep thoughts and prayers and to people who are suffering around the world. I just also wanted to, I mean, there's some emails that I was going to comment on, but I think that's very, very petty. But I do believe transparency and accountability for government is important. And so some of these issues that we have done or not we have done, but the staff and changes and things with meeting areas. We had a meeting just, Mayor Norton was talking about being held in an area that the city council is now locked out of. And just making sure that we all have access to places that that we are, policy is being written. So I think that's something to, if anyone wants to reach out to me, I know there's been groups who've asked me to speak on such a topic, so I'm happy to do so. But this other, couple other things, I wanted to review the rules and procedures. And I know the last couple meetings, there during, and I'm not going to reiterate the situation, please go back and watch last week, the DEI discussion about me bringing up a concern, and there was, I believe, some breaking of rules and procedures of the Roberts rules. And a lot of, I shouldn't say a lot, but several different residents, some who hold office, have reached out and thought that it was highly inappropriate for city staff to interrupt while someone has the floor, just because if someone doesn't like what someone is saying, doesn't give the right to council members to silence that person. I do not feel that is the true essence of representational democracy. We all were elected, close to 20,000 residents in Ward 6 are who I represent. And of course, I represent all of Rochester in policies as well. But when someone speaks on an issue, that is a reflection of the represented who is speaking, and to have been cut off as 2 weeks ago, other business, I was going to speak on the gentleman who came and spoke on the housing concern. And I wanted to amplify some of his concerns and bring some staff input. And I was cut off by President Carlson, who said she would not allow any more open other business. And I wasn't able to speak on that resident's concern. And I challenged that. I did not agree with that decision to silence other business, yet I was not, I believe, had the right to have have a vote of the council when a president's decision is challenged. I believe Robert's rules allow a vote of the peers. And I just want to clarify, I don't know if the clerk Geisler or someone with knowledge of Robert's rules in depth, just wanted to clarify that situation that happened 2 weeks ago. Is it, I mean, I don't believe it's respectful.
Council President
A
Carlson,
second.
I can speak to that.
I was asking the council, I was
So
asking the
in
clerk.
our rules, staff, Mr. Spindler Craig and our city administrator have the right to interject when they need to. So go ahead, Mr. Spindler
You
Craig.
silence
Point of-
elected officials? I
It
did
is,
not know. Could
it is in our rules for them to interject.
you send
as
me how
needed.
you can silence elected officials?
It is
in our
not
rules,
that,
please?
and we're
I would like
have
to see that.
adjourn if you're going down this path. If you have a question, we'll ask
Silence
Mr.
my-
Spindler Craig. Go
We have
ahead.
plenty of time. It's not, it hasn't even been an hour
You
yet.
do not have the floor. You are out of order. Mr. Spindler Craig, please respond to her question.
Thank you, Madam President. This question did come to me previously today. There was some discussion, including consultation with Clerk Geisler and others on this question of whether a motion asking for overruling of the chair requires a second. It does. So the way that you handled that matter a couple of weeks ago was perfectly appropriate. You asked for a second, there was no second, and you moved on, as you would with any motion that requires a second and doesn't receive one. And as you are reflecting, yes, you do have council rules and a code of conduct that sets the parameters for how all of you interact. And that includes these moments when if somebody's not following the rules, it's the job of the chair, the president, to intervene and attempt to run a somewhat orderly meeting, which I think you've been attempting to do. And yes, as you reflected, the city administrator and city attorney do, by your council rules, have a right to intervene. We, of course, try to do that respectfully and appropriately and in timely manners. Certainly not attempting to silence anyone, but these are, of course, your rules that you've revisited multiple times over the past few years. And this is what is hopefully helpful to you running an orderly meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Spindler Craig. Mr. Keen?
Yeah, I just want to follow this up again. There's all these like vague accusations of illegal activities going on.
And there was.
There's all kinds of accusations like that. There's this unsubstantiated, many people who are telling me to bring this stuff up that I don't know where they come from, but I guess I want to make sure the public hears from the dais that this is going on during the week, the staff's investigating it. We're going down these rabbit holes all the time and trying to placate these complaints and get to the end of them. But it is not a good way to spend our city business and our city time, and,
Oh.
and I'm frustrated with
With
it.
that, I'd invite a motion to adjourn.
I have a couple more.
Let's do a motion to adjourn.
One about RDA taking down a fence that was funded and
Say,
one about a
Councilmember,
grant that was
Councilmember
not
Dennis,
approved.
Councilmember Dennis, you need to acknowledge the chair.
I do.
She runs the
I
meeting.
object that it was, other
Okay.
business was.
Okay, stop.
And I try,
Councilmember Dennis.
Councilmember Dennis, we are going to have to ask you to leave the meeting if you continue this. This is not acceptable on the dais. Okay? I know you think I'm scolding you, but this is just not how we have agreed to operate.
you're right, silence.
I'm going to move to adjourn.
Unacceptable.
Thank you. Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Abstain. All right, motion fails. Continue on, Councilmember Dennis.
I appreciate that. Thank you. I can switch topics if that's what is needed, but I do not agree
We're
that
almost out of time
Think-
anyway, so go on.
there is no time restraint on other business. I'm sorry.
See,
knowledge.
Councilmember Dennis, just move on to the next topic and
But
we'll
there-
try to
there is no-
address and answer.
I just am very happy that council meetings are recorded, so we can go back and watch these. My two other, points that I wanted to bring up, one was brought to me by a previous council member. And I have talked to several staff about this, just to make sure that I was on the same page. There was this, and I don't have the word for it, but a fancy fence that was put in, down Broadway. It was right off Fourth Avenue. And I believe the intent was to keep people safe from crossing the road from bar to bar. That fence took a lot of time, energy, and resources to install. I was not elected at that time, but previous council members have expressed how much public engagement there was to have that installed. Then without my knowing, and I believe without the knowing of any council, because it was not brought to city council, it was just taken down. And we can see it taken down, so we can ask about it. But when I asked about who authorized it, there was talks about, well, cities, and please correct me if I am wrong, because I definitely don't want to give wrong information. But I was informed by some city staff that RDA wanted it down or had some involvement with having it taken down, and city staff. The concern is from people in the community is with such a huge expense of taxpayer dollars, without any say from their representatives, why wasn't city council even brought into discussion? And why was that expensive fence on Broadway taken down by the whim of hired city staff? Yes, thank you.
Mayor, President, members of the council, so yeah, I'm gonna just be honest, we did not bring that forward for council consideration. That was something that was done in the course of our, day-to-day staff activities. However, I would say this, this was a conversation that was done in conjunction with DMC RDA and as part of the downtown task force. And so this is a conversation that held within a group of stakeholders that was important in terms of how we engage effectively in the downtown. I'd also say that I think what we provided at least 2 updates within the city administrator's report indicating that this is the direction that we were going, and provided that opportunity to allow the council to, provide an indication that they would like to potentially talk about it. But we did feel we had the ability to make that removal at the staff level. But again, did provide a couple of updates in that space. So how also, we have retained the fencing from South Broadway. It does sound like there is some potential adaptive reuse of that might occur in the future as part of the overall riverfront public realm. And so the team continues to have that as an opportunity to potentially consider the reuse of that in an appropriate way that wasn't out of sync with what the downtown business owners and stakeholders were hoping to see happen.
Thank you. I just want to point out the updates are after the fact and aren't meant, I believe, in my view, as a council decision making flyer that we receive. It's packed with information from all departments that kind of give updates. And so I would appreciate if big decisions that have cost incredible amounts of money, and I don't know the exact, how much did it cost to install that fence, Mr. Parrish?
Your Honor, off the top of my head, I don't know, but we can certainly find out.
Okay, well, it's tens of thousands of taxpayer dollars. So I just want to say that in the future, I would appreciate a little heads up so that if the council would like to discuss some of these huge.
And I'm going to state on top of this that I knew this was the direction of the task force and the city was going that direction. I recall this fence as being controversial from the day it was put up, making it difficult to do snow and things like that. And I was all for getting it down. So if that adds a little light to this murky discussion.
Okay, so here, well, my next topic is, it was brought to my attention from a resident in Ward 6 about a grant that was being proposed in the House and Senate up in St. Paul. A $2.3 million dam modification for Silver Lake to help with fish passage. I don't have all the numbers right in front of me here. But this resident was very concerned. And so I met with a couple of city staff about this issue. I appreciate the information. I'm not saying my intention about Silver Lake and whether or not I like or dislike the modification, but I do think that the way it was done by going without council approval, without council knowledge, getting that grant to St. Paul, because once that funds are, in our hands, it puts a lot more pressure to actually do the project, as we have seen with other things like the 6th Street Bridge and whatnot. So I feel like when grants, I do know that previous councils had looked at things, but there was never a direction of staff to go and write grants. And by $2.3 million to get that funding makes it really hard for residents who oppose the dam modification because it's a huge push in the favor of that being done. And I heard through the meeting that there are many grants that are being proposed, written, staff spending time, energy, writing, proposing to St. Paul and other places, I imagine, that council is unaware of. And not that I don't want more money coming to Rochester. I think that's phenomenal. We need to, as any different diverse sources of funding. It's the principle that once you get that, if we get a grant for, X million dollars, it puts so much pressure on that being done, and it takes away public engagement. It takes away the people's voice who oppose that whatever project in the future, because we have already have the,
Quick interjection here to
So-
my colleagues. Councilmember Dennis has been talking in other business since about 6:46, 6:47.
My question is, I'll just ask.
There probably isn't a question.
My question is about, why isn't the grant, if they're huge, like millions of dollar grants, why are they not coming to council to see if we even want the time and energy of staff? We don't want to waste staff time. That's a big thing that I'm really careful of. But I do think we need hard questions. We need to ask why we are spending time doing this and what impact will that be on the decision process if we have millions in hand and we don't, like, the voices of the citizens trying to oppose something that's already fully funded is minimized. Thank you.
So,
Councilmember Keen.
yeah, I'd like to correct the history on this and make sure we put this in the right light. About 4 years ago, the city council voted this project 6-1 to be done, but we could not find the money for it. And we could not get funding through state bonding or local area sales tax. So the staff was given direction to continue on. We've got to do the dredging pretty soon, but if you can find a way to do this, and I credit the staff and the city engineer who had the foresight to say, I think I know a way we can do this project and work through this. And the staff was aware, and we were aware too, because it's in our weekly updates. And if we don't read them, that doesn't mean the staff did something wrong. The fact that people are against things we do in the city should not surprise anybody that sits up here. There'll always be opposition. There'll always be support. Just because somebody speaks again, it doesn't make it the wrong thing to do. And I commend the staff for being creative and finding funding for the things that this council voted to do. Now, we still don't have enough money to do what this council wants to do, and we won't be able to get it all done in 2025. But I commend the staff for helping us move in the direction that this council gave them.
So just to clarify the weekly updates, is that now a policymaking document?
So,
Because to
Councilmember
I
Dennis, you're
can't
out of
discuss
order.
anything open meeting law violation if I do.
Point of order. Clerk Geisler, will you please clarify if there's a time limit on an agenda item titled Other Business?
Councilmember Kirkpatrick, other business is a section, and I would say there's a time limit on each topic that she's on, so.
Okay, thank you
No.
very much. I just wanted clarification whether it was an agenda item or whether, as you just stated, each topic is allowed I guess, the 8 minutes. So
I don't
thank you.
think there's a rule either way. That would be my interpretation. Technically, there is no rule for other business.
Thank you.
Councilmember Keen?
I just want to add one other thing. I mean, the way our council rules work, council members can get things on the agenda through council initiated action. We have changed our rules and operations by allowing a bunch of topics to be walked onto the agenda through other business. And I think we're going to have to get on top of that because this is not working.
This is
No,
called new,
Councilmember Dennis, you don't just automatically have the floor again.
I just was clarifying.
This is, come on, guys.
And with
Do you
that, I want to
staff
move to
wait
adjourn.
on- Thank you. Without a second, Mr. Parrish, could you just clear the record for all the misstatements that Councilmember Dennis just spoke of?
Please, no.
Councilmember Dennis.
No,
just
thank you.
Stop, let staff respond.
There weren't misstatements. I
Let-
would like to hear what misstatement, please, not generalized.
Councilmember Dennis, the chair controls the meeting.
Not the truth. She doesn't control the truth.
Within the
thank you.
parameters of. the
All right, now a
rules.
motion to adjourn, please.
I'll move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Motion carries. We're adjourned.
Brooke, could you clarify what